Hey everyone, Melissa with the Creative Season here. Last week we painted eggplant blooms and this week we're painting pumpkin blooms. And these gorgeous blooms are filling up the yard. There are no pumpkins though, which is I guess appropriate since the pumpkins don't actually come for a little while. So we're just gonna paint the blooms today. Lots of yellows I add just a little bit of an orange just to give it a pop with the surrounding green. Now the pumpkin vines in my mom's yard are absolutely going bananas. They are all over. So what I ended up doing is, in the final picture you're going to see, I ended up coming back after everything was dry and doing a wash of light green in between all the leaves to really make it look nice and full. So this is a bit of a crazy painting, but it definitely catches the essence of the gorgeous and beautiful pumpkin vines that are spreading everywhere, all over the yard. All right, you guys, let's start painting. Hi everyone, we're back. This is Melissa with the Creative Season, and we are going to be painting our beautiful pumpkin vines and pumpkin blooms. So I'll pull this in. I just had printed off some pictures this morning. The pumpkin vines are growing like crazy. In fact, I was looking up on YouTube on how to take care of them. This is actually a picture from a few weeks, maybe a week or two back, and they're all the way down. They're growing up trees. I did realize, I did not know I'm supposed to prune them, so we'll be doing that this afternoon, I think. So anyways, I just wanted to jump in here and do some really fun painting. I've got 2 pieces of paper. Oh, that was loud. 6x9, and then I think this one is 4x, I think it's more of a 4x5. It was just a scrap paper, but I wanted to do a couple of different things. So if you're drawing along with me, I was looking at my beautiful pumpkin vine, this guy right here, and I'll come and pull that back out now. And I was noticing how much it looks like a starfish when you look straight on as these beautiful blooms open up. So I have my little face here, and then I am just doing an outline. So marking out the end where the ends of the 5 points of the bloom seem to go, and each one has a little line that goes back to the center. That's pretty distinct. It's a green, so we'll be pointing that green. And then I just realized too that they all kind of met, very much like a starfish, but having some different wiggles in there. This one, the leaf is a bit turned back, so we're going to give that one an edge. But you can use pencil. I'm using micron pen, so you can see that a little bit better as I sketch. And then I'm just going to do some squiggly lines. I'm not going to sketch everything, just some of the things. I am going to reincorporate the fence in the back, so I'm just drawing some lines for my fence. And then also these guys are growing right up against that wall of the garden, so I'm going to incorporate that wall back into this painting. And the vines are just growing crazy, growing over the wall. So again, I'm going to incorporate that as well. And I'm just kind of moving around here. This will be a very free-spirited painting. It's going to be, I'm hoping to capture the feeling of robust growth that the pumpkins are. There's just an explosive growth. And it's funny because they seem to just enjoy going a little bit crazy. There's another bloom over here, and really just growing as fast and as far as they can. There's these little vines that just kind of grow off of them, and they're like little curlies. I just had forgotten. It's been several years since I've grown pumpkins. And my mom lives like 25 minutes, 30 minutes from me. So I really noticed the growth when I go over there, and I'm like, my goodness gracious, even if it's been just a couple of days, the pumpkin vines are just growing like wild. Okay, so I'm just finishing up that sketch, and if you're sketching along with me, you can do the same. I'm going to come back over here. Got a vine here. Coming over on this one, I caught this picture. Isn't that interesting? Just that bloom. Just beautiful. So over here, I'm going to let that bloom take up really most of the space. Make sure you can see that too. I'm going to come in a little bit closer. There. That way you can see me creating that, almost that little umbrella protective structure, right? I see some pretty distinctive lines too, which the lines are green, which is interesting. So we're going to be using that green that we've been using, the gamboge, which I think will be beautiful, and some cadmium yellows to create this really beautiful beautiful blooms, and the blooms are just wild in nature. I love the way they grow so prolifically, and they just seem to burst. They're just bursting blooms, which is just really beautiful. I have a couple little ones over here. I have a vine in the back that I'm going to be incorporating into this little painting over here, and maybe up top as well. And we'll do a background of green, I think, as well. I've got a little bit of a leaf coming out over here that maybe I can incorporate down there. Very, very nice. Okay. And I'll do another, like almost a little tendril over here to show the prolific pumpkin growth. Now, if you have sketch with pencil, and I'm going to actually go ahead and erase my pencil because I don't want those lines to show up. You could also, if you've only sketched with pencil, go ahead and paint. And then after we finish painting together, you can go back and erase some of those lines. If you notice any lines are especially heavy that you might want to lighten up, I would do that now. So I'm going to just pause the video. I'm going to do my erasing, and then we'll jump in and start painting together. Okay, are we ready to paint? I hope so. Hope you've got your colors out. Just to review again, we're mostly going off this garden palette for this garden series. And so this week too, we're going to be painting a lot with the gamboge, the greens, both permanent green and or hooker's green if you have it. And then I'm going to be pulling on the cadmium yellow medium. If you have cadmium yellow light, that'll work as well to add a little bit of color. And then we'll be pulling on some of our the brown, so the burnt sienna, and I'll probably mix it with a little cadmium red for the fence and then the tile wall. So I'm going to move that to the side now. Just keep that. I've got my pictures over here as well for a reference guide. I am going to start with painting my flowers, so I want to give them a little bit of time to dry as well. So I'm actually going to grab a smaller brush. I have a size 4 here, so I'm going to grab that size 4. I'm going to go ahead and get some green. I've got some permanent green and some hooker's green on the palette. I'm going to just grab that permanent green right now. And where I'm seeing, there was so interesting, it's almost like a ring around this little guy. And I'm going to come back and end up creating a wash with some yellow, but getting a little bit of that ring going there. And then starting to pull back some of those lines that I see in the bloom. And they're over and around. And again, thinking about that starfish design that I'm seeing, which is really, really interesting. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to go over to my other one too. And sometimes it's nice to paint 2 paintings at a time because you can give it just enough time to dry before adding in some other colors, unless you're going that wet on wet look when you're wanting everything to be super wet. We're doing a bit of a blend. We're doing mostly dry today. We're not doing tons of blending. I may do some little bit of splattering at the end just for fun. Okay, so I've got that green down. I'm going to come back. I'm going to grab some of the gamboge. So getting that gamboge, if you don't have gamboge, you can mix a cadmium orange and yellow together. And it's just a nice, almost like a really warm yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start laying that down really nicely. I'm not going to color the whole thing in. In fact, I'm going to go to a bigger brush just so I can get it a little bit more loose. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow too. So grab some yellow and start adding in here. That's really nice. Get it a little bit wet if you think it's too dry, because we do want it to pick up some of that green. I'm going to move around in here, moving this down together. The nice thing with yellow and green, if they mix, it's going to turn into probably a lighter green. We definitely have green in these blooms. If you think the gamboge is too much orangey, for example, you can always pick up some yellow and add that in. It's a pretty bright flower, right? If you could always add in some of the cadmium orange if you're wanting a bit more of a pop. I'm picking up some more cadmium yellow right now and dropping that in, and I'm actually going to drop more in the center here, and then just go ahead and back off and let that mix together. Okay, going to come back over on this side, and on this bloom too, I am seeing, I'm sorry, I moved my little guy there. Okay, definitely we're seeing that orange or that yellow pop right in there where we have more pale colors. So I'll start by grabbing that yellow. And again, grab the yellow on your palette. If you have that cadmium yellow, if you have a light or medium, both hues are going to work. really nicely. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to pull that yellow down and then start pulling it through the green over here. And pull it up like this. I am going to grab that gamboge, or if you have a little bit of orange, grab your orange, and then also start going right against that green and moving that up and then around. I just picked up some more water and then I'm just moving the color out. Again, make sure to leave some white so we let that watercolor dance and play. And that looks really nice. I want to pick up some more cadmium orange here, a little bit of gamboge. I'm going to get some more water and just let them do some dancing where I see some movement and some color in here. And I'm going to come back and do the same thing with the other bloom. I am going to pick up just a tad bit of orange. I just want it to pop a little bit more. And I'm going to just drop the color in right around here. And then maybe even too where I see maybe a bit of some depth of color. Maybe where there's a little bit more shadowing, I'm going to come drop it in here. And you'll see the ring of green is fading, which I wanted. I didn't want it to leave it a ring. So over here again, you can use that tip of the brush to create kind of the squiggly edges, because these blooms do not have straight edges, which is really interesting. So you can add that darker color around the edges to create that sense of the different shapes. And then I have got this blossom right over here, which is not fully unfurled. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in a little bit of color there, and then add in some green around it. I'll come back over here, pick up some green, and then I'm going to let it dance in here too, because when those blooms aren't completely unfurled, that green, the green vine kind of tends to protect them. So actually I really like how that blends together. Now let's move around a little bit. You can see right here where we have some of those pumpkin tendrils. I'm going to take the edge of this brush and just go all the way down like that. You want those definitely to be popping out. I'm going to go ahead and start just laying on some color here as I'm looking at the different lines in the pumpkins too. So almost outlining where I'm seeing the different lines and bringing that down. And then coming up over on this one, and I can see some more lines over on this pumpkin. And creating those lines and just letting they kind of dance upwards. And then I can see more of the top of this guy is a solid leaf. I'm going to go ahead and grab some yellow to mix with the green as I see some different colors, and then come back and add that color combination and let that merge together. This will give some delineation too between the different plants or the different leaves. Okay, so I've got that guy. I'm going to come back here. I can see a lot of yellow on this one as his face is turned up to the sun, following again some of those lines. And I see it going a little bit more as I'm looking into this leaf right here. I see some shadowing going on. So grabbing some darker green. You might even want to grab the hooker's green is a bit more, I think it has a blue undertone more so than the permanent green. So adding some of that for more shadow if you want. Add a little bit more up here. I'm going to go down here and some of the pumpkin vines themselves, we're going to paint those in. Right over here. Moving this guy around. We don't want to get it too wet as I'm going to come back and create that brick and then the fence too. I can see other vines though, so I'm going to go ahead and add those in. I didn't sketch them in, so I'm just going to go ahead and freestyle that. And moving that down here as well. And I see even another bloom down here. I'm just going to make it real light. Coming through here, we have another big leaf here. I'm just careful of getting it too close to the petals, right? Because I don't want the green to go in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just carefully lay down that color. Again, I'm leaving some white spaces open. And then a little bit darker, I'm going to grab some hooker's green and come right up here. And I'm going to add some darker color right in here too. This guy right here, he's looking really nice. Let me add some depth over here. This one, I actually saw another vine coming through in the back. Lots of growth up here. Everything's growing. That's for sure. It is fun to see so many things growing in the garden, right? And just adding a little bit more depth in here. We can kind of choose, we're the artist, we're the creator of this painting, so we can choose what we want to include and then what we want to leave, right? So just remember, you do have that power to, if something looks too crazy, you can leave it out. We don't have to include everything. Okay, so then as I'm coming through, that's looking really nice. I've got this guy that I want to do. I will jump over here. Let's do some of these tendrils over here. Let's get this guy right here. He's looking nice. I'm going to lay down some yellow first, some yellow green that I had mixed up, and putting that right down here. I had seen this guy, the lines that were shooting out, showing just the different parts of this particular pumpkin leaf were a little bit lighter. So I want to acknowledge that different shade, and then come back and then start adding some of the darker around it. It is amazing how many different greens there are, right? So many different greens. Grabbing a little bit more of that yellow, adding it in, coming down in here. Noticing too the different shapes of that leaf. Parts of it look even kind of bumpy. So I'll just add in some color to try to emulate some of the lines and the divots and the shapes and the roughness. Pumpkin vines are prickly, so are squash vines, and I've been grabbing gloves when I work with them because I can really get beat up. I guess it's a mode of self-protection on the plant's part. Okay, grabbing a little bit of that hooker's green and adding that in there too. Okay, and then even looking up here where it faded a bit, just adding in some color there. And a little bit of that yellow green, I'm going to go ahead and add right in there as well. And that's a bit of a wash, and I think that looks really nice. Okay, we've got this going on in here. Let's move on. We're going to let this dry for just a quick second, and then I'll come back and do the fencing. So we'll come over here. I am going to pop on in these just a bit of color, and I want to dab on a little bit more color over on this one too, because the green really blended in there, didn't it? So just a little bit more color. Then coming back over here, I'm going to pick up the green, and then we're going to come on down and add in the blossoms here, add in the vine, which was creeping around right in here, right down there, and the vine's going up, 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 so I'm going to grab that. We had a leaf sticking out here, so I think I will grab some of that lighter, that yellow color, and maybe I should have done that before the blooms, but that's okay. We'll just put this right in here. And I think for this one, because I see so much green, right, I am going to go ahead and take, and as if we can just, it's almost faded, just like the photograph, I'm going to go ahead and just create a nice wash of that beautiful green yellow. I'll probably come back and darken up everything in the forefront of the picture, so the bloom itself. The blooms are so vivid, and I'm not quite able to capture how vivid I want them to be on this painting, which I'm kind of bummed about. I am going to maybe play with a little bit more cadmium orange. I'm almost tempted to put a tad bit of pink in there. Let me do this and just move that around. Again, I'm just wanting that pop. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take some cadmium, the red actually, bring it over and see if I can't just get a bit more, just a bit more. Oh, see, that actually does a little bit more. That was a cadmium red light, and just let that play and dance a little bit. If you think it's too bright, you can always come back and add another color or just lift it with your paper towel. I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to wash down the yellow as well. Okay, let's see how that turns out. That looks really pretty. I do like that. Alright, so while that is over here, that's looking really nice and quite vivid. We're going to come right over here now. I'm going to change that up. And I'm going to do my brown fence in the back. So we've got the burnt sienna, which hopefully hasn't gotten too, sometimes the colors start getting mixed a bit much, and I've got to clean the palette. All right, so I've got the brown, and I'm going to just go down here with the fence, and you can see I'm moving pretty quickly, and really my goal is to have these done in less than 20 minutes. You know, just looking at your life, if you are just trying to, you're looking for that time of creating, you want to finish a project, right? Because you get too many things unfinished and just gets discouraging. We want to finish things. I think that's super important. So I like to keep these watercolor sketches about 20 minutes or so. Okay, and just moving this down. You'll notice I got a little bit of green that got caught up. I'm just going to take a dry brush and we'll just clean that up, and let's just kind of soak up the water. I'm going to get a bit more water down here and then come down here as well and do some of that coloring in here and right in here as well. Just, I really like that sense of a fully colored painting, right? There's still white popping out, but it's not stark white. So I'm going to go move in here, and we can always add in more pen work and then another layer of paint as well. Now down here, I'm going to do the same thing. It's like almost a tile that's like a red brown tile kind of. So I'm going to go ahead, and it's actually even had some like dirt on it. So I'm going to go around here, around the vines that are growing up on the tile, and now they're actually growing over and onto the lawn. My mom said she had to like lift up all the vines off the lawn so she could mow it this week. And I'm just going to move around here. I see some dirt in the picture too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of that raw umber, which is that darker color, and I'm even going to just drop in a little bit of raw umber here where those dirt patches might be. And plus it just gives some variation, right, to the painting. And everything's pretty wet, so it's not terribly stark against each other, if you know what I mean. It's not like that looks like there's big blobs of brown sticking out, which I don't want that. So I'm going to come back over here, pick up some more burnt sienna, which I need to get some more actually on my palette. I realize I am running out a bit. And I'm going to come down here. There's that burnt sienna. Just make that line all the way down here. It's dry enough now too that I can do that. It's looking nice. If you wanted to take a little bit of that burnt sienna as well and go down like your fence lines, that'll add some detail and just some contrast. And I think the browns look really, really nice against all of the green. Now you'll notice too in here, I'm not getting too much brown in there because first of all, I can't see the brown. It's so thick with the green, but I don't want to do my green wash yet, because if I do that, things are probably going to fade. So I'll probably let this dry and then take a very light green yellow wash and go in between to just show the dense growth. And then over here on this side, what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and take just a little bit of brown down here that I could see, and I'm going to go like underneath the vine, just like that, and around the flower just a little bit, bringing some contrast and showing just a little bit of depth there. And coming around here. Okay guys, so that's that first initial wash. We'll come back, or I will come back later most likely when it dries, and add in some more detail work, and feel free to do the same. There's a lot of wetness on this paper, so I don't want to do too much now because I don't want to risk it getting muddy. That is never fun. So I hope you enjoyed these beautiful pumpkin blooms. They really are quite unique. They're very different from a regular flower, and that's one of the things I wanted to explore in the garden series, was painting different kinds of blooms and flowers that we see in our yards. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you soon.